Let's go to the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. And it's always an honor when we get to talk to one of the best players in team history, and that's certainly what we're doing now. A 3-time Super Bowl champion, a multi-time All-Pro, and a 4-time Pro Bowler, one of the 80 greatest Redskins ever. Mr. Charles Mann is on. Grant and Danny on the Fan. Charles, welcome back on the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
How you guys doing?
Great.
This has been an unbelievable run. We cannot believe this team has done this. What do you make of this? This is just wildness.
I have been super negative over the years. I've been in the community, since I retired in 1995, and it hasn't been good. And this year, I came out just like I always do, and people ask me when I'm at the gym or going around town, hey, what do you think? And I say, I don't think much. And then I went to the first game, and then I went to the Dallas game at home. And, there was some bright signs, but what's happened in the last 5 or 6 weeks is remarkable. First of all, Jayden Daniels is superhuman. And as a rookie, I remember when I was a rookie, I'd have been in peed on myself in all the moments that he's had, that he just looked calm, cool, and collected. And it's baffling, but I'm loving it.
Charles, does he remind you of any of your teammates in that way, where just there's no moment too big? Nothing?
No, there's nobody. I haven't seen. I mean, this kid is, it's like he doesn't have a pulse. I know he's alive. I've seen him smile one time. So I know he cares, but he just is a freak of nature. And we may be watching, the next, Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Tiger Woods or, Serena Williams. I mean, this is crazy. It is really fantastic to watch. And he's on our team. And we don't have to go through, what did we have, 36 quarterbacks over the last 30 years? Something like that.
Yeah, we can finally send the helicopters home. The search is over. we found the QB, it looks like. Charles Mann is with us. It's funny because, look, I think we're all impressed, whether you played or you didn't play, with his demeanor. But when we bring people on who were great players, that's kind of where they start, which is telling to me. Mm-hmm. Like, there is something about just his poise and calm. We had your former head coach, Joe Gibbs, on yesterday, and he talked about, he was just cracking up. He's like, I've never seen the kid emote. I don't know if he has emotions. It does seem like that is what everybody locks in on for good reason.
Yeah, and let me say this. There's been 9 interceptions. I don't think he threw all 9 of those, but there's been 9 interceptions and over 300, what is that, 390 something yards, over 3,932 yards for the season. How do you throw that many passes? And that's 525 attempts, and only have 9 interceptions. I mean, that was, I think, Mark Rippon, even Doug. Well, Doug didn't play the whole season, but Mark Rippon had 9. He was sacked 9 times our last Super Bowl year. But I'm trying to remember how many interceptions he had. I mean, this is his numbers. He is the best quarterback left out there. Out of the 4 teams playing this weekend, he's got the best stats.
Yeah, Mark Rippon, by the way, for reference, Charles, 11 interceptions in that 91 season. Just to goes to show you how different everything was. Charles Mann with us here on G&D. What about this team as well, Charles? Because I mean, the Jayden Daniels story is transcendent. It's there. It's obvious. It jumps off the page. But this is a group that I don't know that if you had a league average quarterback would be a double-digit team winner or a double-digit winner. But here they are in the NFC title game. That's just the most remarkable part to me is that everybody's playing great somehow. We're all pulling the rope in the same direction. What do you make of that?
Yeah, now the next person that jumps off the map is Dan Quinn. I mean, he really does. I attribute, y'all had my coach on there yesterday. He was amazing. Joe Gibbs was, And he takes a lot of the credit for what we did, even though he didn't ever step out on the field and make one play or tackle or catch or throw. But Dan Quinn has got these guys believing in each other. And that takes a long time. It's built over training practice and in the locker room and week in and week out, night in and night out, game in and game out. I remember Norv Turner when he was here, one of the several coaches we've had come through here, and Norv would be calling out players. I don't remember Dan Quinn calling out any player negatively. So he's fallen on the sword himself. He's not calling out his players. His speeches are not the same. You know, I think of Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was kind of like just whatever, you know, hey, this happened and that. No, Dan Quinn is coming at this differently than these other coaches. His second chance at head coach has really turned out to be just eye-opening because he's approaching this the right way. He's got these guys believing they can do anything.
Redskins legend Charles Mann is with us on Grant and Danny. You know, it's been probably, almost 5 years now since we had you on. This was around the time of the name change. Maybe it was like 4 years. Originally to the Washington football team. And I remember being taken aback that day, and you were so honest with us, but I had no idea that you'd felt that way, where you basically said, and I don't want to paraphrase, but something to the effect of you felt more appreciated by the 49ers at that time than this organization. And I know for a lot of us that was heartbreaking to hear. I mean, because you just meant so much to this organization. But I'm curious, like, what your relationship has been like, if you have one with the new ownership group, and if they're as classy and decent to you guys as it seems like they've been to all of us.
Well, first of all, they have Magic Johnson, so we could almost stop right there. Magic is a winner. Magic is just everything that he's touched he's won at, he's done well with. So the fact that they picked Magic said that they're going to go a different path and they're going to do something different than Dan Snyder. And then secondarily, there's a process. The number one thing they had to do, this new ownership is, and I'll answer your question, but the number one thing they had to do was get a better product on the field. That was number one. Number two, they had to fix the stadium. There was a mess at the stadium, railings falling, urine coming down out of the stands, and all kinds of other stuff happening. So they had to do those things. And then number three, and not necessarily in this order, is they had to win back the players that felt abandoned, kind of. You know, let me just say this about that. I don't expect, that's not their job to make us feel good. And look, I got my 3 Super Bowl rings, and anybody taking those away from me, doggone it. And so if I just want to remember, I just pull one out. Or if I want to go to YouTube and look at a highlight and say, okay, yeah, we were pretty doggone good, by the way. But no, these guys have, even though they're doing all these things, there has been an inclusive nature about them. They have invited me a bunch of times to games, and not just me, but my friends. We were at Darryl Green's jersey retirement. We were all there, a bunch of us. A lot of guys I hadn't seen in a long, long time had felt comfortable with coming back out. And so it's a process. It's going to take them a minute, but I tell you what, I feel a lot better about this team and about coming around. I live, 6 minutes away from the facility. And one day, out of nowhere, out of the blue, this was about 3 months ago, Doug Williams called and said, hey, Dan Quinn wants to meet the badasses. I said, huh? And he said, Dan Quinn said he wants to meet the bad. I said, who are they? He said, you and Dexter. I said, oh, okay.
Wow.
So the next day I was over at Redskin Park and, and taking a tour. Like, I hadn't been in there. That was the place I worked. But we took a tour at some of the new stuff in there, and the cafeteria with a chef. That was a racquetball court. Now it's a cafeteria with a chef. We met the chef. We ate lunch, and then Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Josh Harris and everybody came over there to us, and it really felt good. I felt wanted, and they were respectful, and I just, I didn't need any of that. They didn't owe me any of that, but it was nice.
I think that's the key, Charles. I'd love you to speak to it, because I got the sense over the years, obviously I'm not in your position, I'm not an alum, didn't play for the team or anything, but they would try to trot out the legends whenever they needed some good PR or they needed something from you guys. And I imagine that probably wore thin. This is just, trying to put some deposits in the friendship bank, I think.
Yeah. No, it doesn't feel like modern day slavery. No. And that's what it kind of felt like under Dan Snyder. These guys aren't trying to make a buck off of us. They just want us to feel welcomed. And you feel that. But it's going to take some time. I haven't seen John Riggins out there. There's other players, Ernest Biner, I haven't seen out there. There's Mark May, I haven't seen. So there's some guys, and I don't come around that often because what happens is we get in patterns in our life, and I'm in a pattern right now. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business, and I'm doing what I do. And now that the Commanders are asking me to come around, I've got to do a new groove now. I got to cut a new path because I've just taken the Commanders out of that path, and now I've got to make room again, which it's easy to do, and I love doing it. But I tell you this, I don't have Super Bowl tickets. People have been asking me. But certainly if they win on Sunday, I'm going to the Super Bowl. If I got to just stand outside the stadium or something, I'm going to that doggone Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. That's cool to hear. Charles Mann
Love it.
Is with us on Grant and Danny. I want to go back, if you don't mind, to January 12th, 92, and the last NFC Championship game you guys played. You had a sack in that game of Eric Kramer. You guys dominated the Lions 41-10. Just any memories you have before kickoff or during the game, obviously.
Oh, my God, yes. Well, number one, every time my wife was pregnant with a child, we won a Super Bowl, and I have 3 children, so that point first. So in 1991, my son was born, and that season spilled over into 1992 as we played in the playoffs. Well, I was going against, so the night before the game, and first of all, I couldn't believe it, but all week long I was watching the Detroit Lions roster, and their roster had a guy named Conover, and he was a rookie, and he was starting at right tackle, which I would have been going up against. And I was just waiting for them to put a new guy in there, a veteran in there. And so I walked out on the field the day of the game, and I stood there and watched as they warmed up on the other side of the field. And I saw Conover in the starting lineup. And I said, oh, my God. So I dreamed that night about what I was going to do to that young kid. I was a 10-year vet, and I was going up against a rookie. And I said, there's no way a rookie's going to hang with me. I'm sorry. I don't care if he's the Heisman Trophy winner or whatever. He's a rookie. And so I had dreamed up overnight that I was going to blast off into this guy no matter what, the first play of the game, whether it was a run, pass, draw, whatever it was. I didn't care I wasn't going to read any keys. I was just going to blast into his chest as hard as I could and let what happened happen. And so we're the first ones on the field. It was defense got to start first, which I loved. And I lined up, and Conover was right there, and I didn't care what the signal or whatever we were doing on defense. I blasted in this guy's chest, knocked him. He kind of just gave and turned, and I grabbed the quarterback's arm, and he fumbled the ball, and Fred Stokes picked it up, and boom. Within seconds, we had a touchdown. Mark Rippon had to go about 10 or 11 yards, and we were off to the races.
That was that first play.
That's what I remember. It was the first play of the game, and I had already dreamed that play.
Wow, so that's amazing.
Charles, like having now heard from you about it, I wish you had like 9 or 10 kids. That would have been really cool. Would have had a lot more trophies.
Yeah, I was going to say, why
we could talk to my wife. The mailman would have to be the guy because
amazing.
I'm done.
Well, You sleep on this, but I threw a tantrum in the supermarket to make my mom buy us a whole week's worth of Swanson Hungry Man dinners because Charles Mann told me to. That is a fact.
50% more meat, extra portions that taste extra good. I remember my lines.
Oh, so good. But that 91 team, just real quick, Charles, this is just for me. When did you guys know? Because those other Super Bowl years, I think I don't want to say there was doubt, but it's like it was competitive, right? That 91 team was so unbelievably dominant and excellent. When did you know
Thank you
that it was
for
different?
saying that. We don't get enough. Can I say something about that? I'll talk. I'll answer that real quick, and I know we're running out of time. I talk long. Sorry. First of all, we shut out 3 teams that year. Mm-hmm. 3 teams. Our defense shut out. That means goose egg, 0, nothing, not a field goal, nothing. 3 teams that year. That hasn't been done since. They haven't gotten 1 shutout since. How do you do that? And nobody on our defense except Darryl Green is a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. How does that happen?
That's crazy.
Preaching to the choir. I'm telling, including the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
by the way.
I'm just saying. First of all, the turnover ratio. That's how we won this weekend. That's how all the teams won this weekend. One had 5 turnovers, and of course, that was our game, and we were going to win with 5 turnovers. You win the turnover battle. We were +5. The next day, they were +3. You're going to win. We won the turnover battle in every single game we played. We turned the ball over to our offense, gave them a short field and an easy touchdown to make, and that's the difference. I think our turnover ratio after the 91 season was +45.
Wow.
+45.
It was absurd.
That's how you win. You win with great defense. And but right now, these guys are doing it a different way. The defense is making enough plays to be dangerous. Saquon Barkley ain't going to run for 255 yards. He may get 155 yards, but he ain't going to run for 2. And how we're going to stop them? How can I make that comment? We're going to have the ball longer. If we win the time of possession, we're going to win the game. And how are we going to win the time of possession? We're going to methodically go down the field every time we get the ball. We're not going to punt the ball. We're going to go for it on 4th down. They are too. But we're going to stuff them. Somehow that tush-push ain't going to work. Or we're not going to get them in a 4th and inches. It's going to be 4th and 5 or 6, and they won't be able to do the tush-push. But that's what I'm believing. I'm a believer now, man. This is serious.
Yeah, it's getting real.
And last comment. Mm-hmm. What if we play the Buffalo Bills? That will be a remake of the last Redskins Super Bowl.
Some symmetry.
That's what a lot of us are pulling for that reason.
That's why I want to be there.
Relive some of those memories. By the way, you guys didn't even play a close playoff game. That 91.
No, they aren't supposed to be close.
That's
we got fans to worry about. We don't want you guys having a conniption.
I'm
we
so
want to
relaxed.
beat them handily so y'all can relax.
I mean, 24-7, 41-10, and then 37-24.
How's a 14-2 turnover margin in the playoffs suit you? Is that good?
But that's why the data, and I don't know, Charles, from your generation, obviously analytics is now so different and part of the game in a way that I don't know how much you follow or care about it. But there's all these sites.
I do.
So there's all these sites that have the data on every team that tries to bridge gaps. And the 91 Redskins team gets spit out more often than any other as maybe the greatest team ever.
But why don't we have more players getting accolades because of that? Why is that?
I've always honestly thought it was the name, which was unfair and ridiculous. I didn't know. I mean, growing up as a kid. So
I can never answer that question, Charles.
We met when I was a young kid. My earliest memories of the team are after the Super Bowl itself. But I always thought it was ridiculous that the Hogs are not represented. Guys like Jacoby.
No.
I mean, defenders like yourself. And I mean, it takes forever for Dexter, Art Monk, or Darryl Green, or any of these guys to get their accolades.
Yeah. That's what I don't understand. If we're one of the greatest teams ever, statistically, and, realistically, how do we not get any due? And we're just not. And that's frustrating. And the older I get, I'm 63. So the older I get, the more I think about it, my wife said, just relax. If it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. If something's going to go down, it'll go down. But it's just frustrating that, my peers, I went to the Pro Bowl with Reggie White and Chris Dolman and Richard Dent and I didn't go with Michael Strahan because he was right after me. But I mean, those guys, my stats are right there with theirs. What happened?
Yeah.
What's the deal? Why did I get overlooked? And Dexter could say the same thing. But and then every time I have a surgery, I've had 26 surgeries. So every time I have a surgery, my wife is reminding me, that football was brutal to you. I know it was brutal. And, to be honest, if I could do it all over again, I might not have played.
Wow. Why do you say that?
I'm just being honest. I got 2 new knees. I got a new hip. I just had my wrist fused. I get body work done like I'm going to the dentist and getting my teeth cleaned. But I feel fantastic now, so I'm almost ready to golf again.
When you're back on the golf course,
that's when you know.
You'll be, that's how you know you're feeling
That's
good.
when I know. It's been 5 years, so I'm trying to get back on the golf course.
Who do you think, just before we let you go, we're taking too much of your time, but we apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Charles Mann, Redskins legend. So this past year, they retired Darryl Green's jersey, and they're now starting to actually do that, which for a long time they didn't. Just as an awkward thing where no one wore the number. And then guys like Joe Theismann are getting phone calls from people to wear their jerseys, right? So that's no fun for anyone. Who do you think should be next?
Art Monk.
81?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He quietly did it, didn't speak for himself. You had to speak for him, but he just quietly got it done. He made those clutch catches over the middle with Ronnie Lott and safeties that could attack the head, and Art just held onto those balls. He made all those catches.
It's a different time with those headhunters, by the way. Now everybody's would get kicked out and flagged and can't do it, but that's when 81 was going over the middle, Charles.
During our era, you could do that, and so you had to have a big guy, and Art was 6'3", 195, 210, somewhere in that area. And you just, he was the one that endured those. Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders, the fun bunch, they got to run down the field catching those long bombs, and Art had to go over the middle and do the grunt work. And he did it quietly, didn't make any complaints, caught all the catches he needed to catch when he needed them, when they needed to be caught. So I would say Art Monk. He played 16 years in the NFL, and so he's a Hall of Famer. To me, that makes sense, but I don't know. I don't call those shots. So
retired the all-time leader in catches when he was done. Well, I hope we see you in New Orleans. How about that?
It'd be fun.
Amen. Y'all make sure you come up to me. I'll go down Media Row and make sure I got to talk to you guys.
All right,
for sure.
And done. We will track you down. Rest assured.
Okay.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There's Charles Mann on Grant and Danny, Redskins legend.
Sorry.
He's the best.
Sorry about that, everybody.
I love him. He is so good. I first met him when I was 10. He was working at Channel 9. He was on their sports department.
Right.
And got him to sign some stuff for my mom for Mother's Day when I was 10 years old.
Just the coolest. Obviously, couldn't be a nicer guy. You sleep when it was hunting time. When the quarterback would drop back to pass that old school style where they actually backpedaled, not like the shuffle back now, and Charles Mann's coming around the edge, good heavens.
Grant and Danny on the Fan.